Greetings, everyone. My name is Shepard Smith, Head of Marketing here at Gravitate, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. The topic of today's conversation is member-facing analytics. And while we have a lot to discuss in the next 30 minutes, we welcome questions and invite you to submit them at any time using the written chat function on the right-hand side of your screen. Everyone in the audience is muted, and we'll be sending all of you a link to the recording of this webinar afterwards. We have two presenters today, Rob Miller and Brandon Moishan. Rob is a CAE who many of you know both as a senior association executive at the trade association 340B Health and as president and co-founder of Avectra, the company that invented the modern web-based AMS with the launch of NetForum. Brandon is a subject matter expert who's been focusing on associations and analytics since 2010 and discusses data analytics with member industry pros every single day. Rob, I'll now turn the presentation over to you.
Thank you very much, Shepard, and welcome everyone. I'm really excited and passionate about the topic that we're covering today, member-facing analytics. It's kind of a mouthful, but we're certainly going to spend some time so you fully understand what it is. But first, I really want to talk about our philosophy at Gravitate. It's data analytics for everyone. We really want our analytics tool, Nucleus, to be a productivity tool for business, not just a tool for IT. And what that means is we want someone as junior as a membership coordinator all the way as senior as an executive staff member to be able to comfortably use the system. So a typical association challenges that we're dealing with Nucleus are accelerating membership retention and acquisition, increasing member engagement, growing the conference and event participation. And these are actually three challenges that we address every day. And in fact, we've had webinars on them and talked about those. And of course, today is really focusing on enhancing the member experience through member-facing analytics. So to help you understand what member-facing analytics are, I created this little chart here, and I thought I'd describe it a little bit to help people understand it. So first of all, when we're building out a Nucleus implementation, the first thing is we've got to determine where we're pulling your data from. And in this example I'm pulling data from 4 different systems, a Nimble AMS, Qualtrics, Higher Logic, a community and informs and email system. And we like to pull that data together into our data lake and blend it all together. Once that data is blended together, then we can do something very special with it. We can project it into a website or into a mobile app. We like to use the term embedding because it's kind of the way it works. And essentially, we make it available to whomever you choose, although most commonly, you might put it behind a login for members to be able to access the analytical data, or you might even put it behind a paywall, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. But let me talk to you a little bit about how Nucleus itself works, which will help build up the concept of the member-facing analytics. So I talked about the data lake, and that's where we store all the data. So it's a modern big data technology that allows us to pull in data from all kinds of different systems, whether it's structured or unstructured data, and it's because it's modern technology, it's super fast. Then we take our processing pipeline, and this is where the real secret sauce is, where we take all that data and we blend it together so it works well together, and make it available so that you can really inspect it. The idea here is to improve the data. We might even add information to it, but always with the thought of making it really available and accessible to the users. Obviously, the third component of the system is the interface. We think it's very intuitive, but Brandon will be showing you the system momentarily, and will allow you to be the judge of how intuitive it is. And lastly, we have a component in the system that allows you to, once you've inspected the data and found maybe special segments of data, you have the ability to export it and then maybe bring it into an email system so that you can further target those individuals, draw them in, further engage them. So it really allows you and helps you with that real next step with the data. So let me talk just a little bit more about blending. In this simple example, I've got 4 systems: an AMS, an email marketing tool, a social community, and a survey. And this simple example, I'm showing how we blend the data together so it looks like it's almost in one very, very large row of data. Now, obviously, each of these systems would have many more columns, but I wanted to make it so it was understandable. But the other thing we do is we try and simplify the data. So we'll take age, for example, and we'll create a new column in Nucleus called generation, so that it's very easy for someone to say, oh, I just want to look at the Generation Xers and see what they're interested in. Same with join date. A lot of times organizations are very interested to know what's happening with their newest members, and it certainly is a lot easier to just pick the field, give me everyone who's from 0 to 3 years, than using greater than or less than clauses to go after that data. So again, we'll create that field so that it makes it very easy. And then finally, my favorite, which is member type. I think most of us could agree that in a membership system, it's oftentimes hard for people to all get the same answer, how many members you have. And so we take the rules such as, they're a regular member, they've got a member status of active, they've paid, or they're within the grace period. All those types of things, and we'll take that logic and then we'll create a new field in Nucleus that's called member type, and it's either M or N or Y and yes or no. So it makes it very easy for somebody to access the data. And where does all that data come from? Well, it comes from all the most popular solutions, whether they're AMS solutions, email marketing tools, survey tools in the market. We are adding new ones every month. So we've done many. We also have clients who bring in data that is maybe publicly available data, such as Medicare, Medicaid data, or other industry data that you would find very valuable in your instance of the system. So the data can come from anywhere. So let's get back to members-facing analytics. And our case study today is a client of ours, National Association for Healthcare Quality, and we worked with them to embed Nucleus visualizations in their systems. And this particular screen is behind a member login. So essentially they sent out a survey to all their members, they collected a bunch of data, and then here they allow the member to log in and see how they compare to other members. And it's fairly simple, but it's very attractive, gives them a lot of information. And this was basically the first step they took. The second step they took was that if the member was so inclined, they could buy a subscription, and then they would be able to then really start drilling into the data. And if you notice on the right side of the screen, we now have a bunch of filters. And those filters are coming straight from Nucleus, and they could be added to as you enhance the system. But now this person can get very precise on how they want to compare themselves to other individuals who took the survey. Brandon is going to show a little more of this, so I'm not going to drill in too deep, but I wanted to give you a quick view, and you'll notice how nice the analytics are sitting inside of the interface of their website. So that's the whole idea behind what we're doing. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Brandon, and he is going to show you some more about what NAHQ was doing. And they really got creative, as I said, in monetizing their offering. So he's going to give you, but he's first going to give you a quick overview of Nucleus and then move on to NAHQ. Take it away, Brandon.
Great, thanks, Rob. So as Rob mentioned, the first thing I'm going to do is I want to show you just a little bit about some of the things that our clients are utilizing Nucleus for. Just give me 1 second, I have to pull up my screen here. And just keep in mind that the use case that we're talking about here in the terms of NAHQ is just one particular use case that clients are using Nucleus for. So the key thing is that we bring in data from all of the different source systems that our clients are using. We blend it together. And really, we use something that's called role-based access, which is what NAHQ is using in order to only show each individual member their own results in that self-assessment survey that they're doing. You can use that within, any type of visualizations that you might have created within Nucleus. So whether that's you want to lock your staff down to only being able to see certain visualizations based on the group that they're in, or you want to, allow your board to visualize certain things within Nucleus itself. Those are all things that are options that you can do here within Nucleus. Where I want to start is I actually want to talk a little bit about some of the other things. So a lot of our clients utilize Nucleus for just operational reporting and internal reporting as well. And so what I want to do is I want to start with just a few examples of what those things are. And again, keep in mind, anybody who needs to have access into these can have access into them. And then we're going to move into the NAHQ site, and I'll show you a little bit more about what they're doing as well. So first things first is that when you log into Nucleus, Nucleus is a website, so you log in and the first screen that you see is going to be something that looks like this. And so here we are in the American Medical Informatics Association site. And so essentially this association, they came to us about 5 years ago, and they had already identified that members in their 0 to 4 years of tenure, or otherwise their new members, were their most problematic members, right? So they were the least likely to renew, the least likely to engage, the least likely to do anything with them, which is typically a common problem that we see across clients that we work with, right? Newer members are harder to retain. And so they wanted a way to figure out how they could address and engage with those members more effectively. And I'm just going to use a little bit of that story to tell you a little bit about how Nucleus works, and talk about the navigation so it makes sense where I'm going and what I'm clicking on as I'm going through here. So first things first is that up here in the top left-hand side of the screen is the main navigation button. And this opens up what we call carousels within Nucleus. And these carousels are designed to analyze different business areas of an association. So here you can see this client they have a members carousel, they have a corporate members carousel, they're looking at their email marketing, right? They have events, and then higher logic community down here at the bottom of the screen. So the key point I wanted to make here is, again, we can help you analyze any of the business areas that you might have, including things like a self-assessment that NAHQ is producing for their members. So if I click into the members carousel, the first thing that you're going to see on the screen here are what we call data cards. And these are designed to be simple question, simple answer type of scenario. And so when you log into the members carousel, or when you click into the members carousel, first thing that you're going to see is how are we performing against our goal or our KPI, right? So these are some of the things that you'll see commonly across the different business areas that we're analyzing, and you'll see that they are at 98.2% of their goal. And this is actually a gauge that fills up, as they're reaching it. Just so happens that they're at the very top, so we don't have much white space blank up there at the top of the screen. The next thing that you'll see on the screen here is their overall member count. And this is, again, important because we're taking all of those things that define what a member is, right? So that they're active, that they're either active or within the grace period, or they paid, or whatever it is that are all those definitions, all those things that define what a member is for your organization. We're putting that into the processing pipeline so that everybody is always working from the same single source of truth, right? They're always coming in and they're seeing the true member count when they take a look at this member count here. All right, as we scroll to the right, this is the reason it's called a carousel. There are more things that we're going to be analyzing, that are important for us to be able to visualize and talk about in terms of how we engage our members more effectively and serve them more effectively. You'll also notice that each of the cards at the bottom of the screen has an explore link, and this is where you can dive down deeper into taking a look at any other pieces of information that you want to find out about your membership. And so here you're going to see, when I dive down deeper into this, I'm now looking at visualizations that show me members by member type, members by gender, members by length of membership. And I now have access to filters over here on the right-hand side of the screen, which allow me to start asking more questions of the data. And so if I wanted to go ahead, and in this case, this client wanted to focus on their members in 0 to 4 years of tenure, right? I just go to my length of membership filter, I click on 0 to 4 years of tenure, and it pops up, it refreshes the visualization with, now I'm only looking at members that meet those qualifications. If I want to add in any additional filters, if for some reason I was only looking for the male members in 0 to 4 years of tenure, I can now see I'm filtering by male members in 0 to 4 years of tenure down here, or over here on the right-hand side of the screen. Okay. Also, at any point in time when you're working in Nucleus, you do have access to the data table that's making up the visualizations above. And so if I wanted to see exactly who those people are, maybe I want to take this and create a list for my email marketing tool, I have access to that data table where I can go ahead and download that information down here at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so that's one example of kind of how we can help you analyze things about your membership here within Nucleus. I do also want to show you one other example from an events standpoint. And so I'm going to take a look at the Clinical Informatics Conference here for this particular organization. And as I mentioned, they were trying to figure out ways to more effectively engage with their members in 0 to 4 years of tenure. And here you're going to see how that actually spilled over into their event registration and how they captured it through event registration as well. And so here, if we look at these visualizations, again, we see our KPI or goal, which is awesome. They hit 132% of their goal this year, and they attribute a lot of that to being able to analyze what's happening with their membership database through using tools like Nucleus. And so here we're going to see, the registrants over the last 3 years, and really the visualization that I want to show here is when I click explore into this particular area, it's going to show me what I call a pace chart. And so here you're going to see 11 is 11 weeks out from the event. 0 is where the event takes place. I've got a slider where I can go ahead and adjust how many weeks I'm looking at down here at the bottom of the screen. And this just allows me to visualize how I'm doing this year in comparative to previous years. And so if I look at where the event is actually taking place at 0, I'm seeing the total number of members who registered or the total number of registrants who decided to attend this particular event in any given year. But the really cool thing is that through doing a little bit more of analysis on what members in 0 to 4 years of tenure are actually interested in, this organization was able to adjust the content that they sent to those members about the event and start capturing more registrations from that bucket. And so, for instance, when I look at this length of membership and I go to that 0 to 4 years of tenure over here on the right-hand side of the screen, it's again going to update the visualization where now I'm looking at the number of members in 0 to 4 years of tenure that registered for this event. Comparatively year over year. And when I look at the total numbers here on mouse over this, you're going to see that in 2014 they had 1, and in 2019 they've got 222 members just within that bucket or that persona that they've decided to focus on attending the event. So that's crazy growth in just a few number of years, and being able to visualize and figure out what exactly are members in these different buckets or in these different personas interested in learning about from us was key in helping them achieve that. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of some of the other things that we can do. So I do want to move into NAHQ's site here. Just give me 1 second. I've got to close out of this. And keep in mind that what you're seeing here is actually their internal. This is the way they view it internally. So let me refresh. And so basically on their website, so the member can sign up for the survey. They take the survey. It's a self-assessment where essentially they're going in and they're trying to assess themselves against key performance indicators, or I guess they call them dimension scores within each of the different areas here. There we go. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to see here on the screen is, again, keep in mind this is a self-assessment where the members are taking a look at, first of all, their overall ways that they're engaging themselves in key different, I guess they're called dimensions for this particular self-assessment. And so here you're going to see the different dimensions are professional engagement, quality leadership and integration, performance and process improvement, population health and care transitions, health and data analytics, and then patient safety. Right, so those are the different areas that these members are scoring themselves in, and each of these core competencies or areas has questions underneath them that the members are then able to rate themselves as to how effectively they perform each of those tasks or functions. So there are actually 2 different ways that the members can access this. One is through, it's kind of a free version, and so that's this overall card that we see here. And then they can pay an additional subscription to be able to look at each of the individual dimensions independently, right? So I can dive down into professional engagement, I can dive into quality and leadership and see how I perform against members on the individual questions that I've answered in that particular area. So first things first, in the free version, what I would do is on the website, the member would be able to see the screens that you're seeing here on the screen now. And so first of all, you're going to see the overall score, how they rated themselves, the total number of respondents they're looking at, how they fall into what percentile they fall into based on those total number of respondents. And here you can see this person that we're looking at falls into the 88 percentile for the way that they've scored themselves here. And so when we scroll down to the bottom of the screen, you're going to see each of those dimension scores, and you're going to see where this person placed themselves. Right, so here you're going to see yellow is novice, green is proficient, blue is expert, and the orange dot is their particular score where they scored themselves. in each of those areas or dimensions that we talked about a little bit earlier. Now, in this particular free version, they have a primary responsibility filter that they're then also able to filter the results by. So if I wanted to, say I worked in case management, I want to be able to see how I perform or how I rate myself against people who work in case management. I can go ahead and check that off, and it's going to show me exactly, how I performed against those people. So should update the percentiles and things like that when I update my primary responsibility here at the top of the screen. One thing I forgot to show you at the beginning is that we are actually looking at one individual member's record now. And the way that I change that is if I open up the filters here, there's a name name guy here where I can go ahead and just select who I want to take a look at. And then I, pull up the member that I want to look at here. And so if I see here on the screen, in the paid version, they have the ability to dive down deeper into each of these individual dimensions. And so on the website, they would navigate to one of the dimensions, they hit explore, it's going to show them now some other stats down here at the bottom of the screen. So now we're taking a look at one individual dimension, which is professional engagement. And I see each of the questions that were asked as a part of that particular area and how this particular member rated themselves in those dimensions. Now, the key thing is that they now have access into other filters over here on the right-hand side of the screen that are going to allow them to see more information about how they want to filter and take a look at it. So one example that we anticipate members will use this for is maybe they want to see how they compare to the next step of their career. And so if I wanted to go in and see how I perform against C-level executives, I can go ahead and check off. I want to go to that job filter. I can see I want to take a look at C-level executives. It's going to update. I'm going to see I fall into the 71st percentile. And then down here at the bottom of the screen, I'll be able to see those things as well. And so each of those dimensions or each of those competency areas has that same type of ability to go in and filter. So if I wanted to go into population and healthcare, and I want to see, how I perform against, locations that have particular bed sizes, or there's particular primary employer, a number of staff that they have there, I'm able to go ahead and filter by any of those things as well. Also down here at the bottom of the screen, there is a print to PDF button, so that if the member wanted to go ahead and print or save this particular visualizations or their survey results into PDF, they have the ability to do that down here at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so that is it for me today. I'm going to kick it back over to Rob and Shepard and see if there are any questions.
Many thanks, Brandon. It does look like we have a few. The first one up, it says, how does this work? Meaning in layman's terms, how is this actually set up?
Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit technical here, but I'll try and keep it pretty high level. So we use a modern iframe technology. And by using that, it allows us to embed those Nucleus visualizations in a website. And because it's a modern technology, it is fully responsive. So obviously what that means is if you shrunk the screen down to a phone size or a tablet, it would shrink appropriately. And we use an SSO handshake between the website and the embedded visualization to pass the credentials for logging in and all the different information like that back and forth. So that's technically how it's handled.
Thank you. Next question is, how do members only see their own information?
Okay, so first of all, briefly, Brandon touched on this when he was demoing, is he showed from the staff side that each one of those individuals he could click on. He could pick a different individual that had filled out the survey and looked at their information separately. So there essentially is a segmented page for each individual, or if you were creating an embedded analytics based on organizational data, there'd be a segmented page for that organization. And so when they log in, it's going to figure out who they are, and it's going to determine what their role is, and then it will present them with just their information.
Moving to the next question, it says, how long would it take to build this on our own, pulling data from our AMS, versus how long does it take using Nucleus?
Okay, so that's a really interesting question. So, part of, I guess this, at the very beginning, I said I was very passionate about, excited about this topic, and this is where it really really comes from, is that you know, the things that Brandon just showed you, you probably could do on your website, especially maybe the easiest example, the first one where we weren't allowing the member to actually change or filter any data. I mean, you could build that, but you also have to remember that we're dealing with blended data. So we're pulling data from multiple data sources and blending it together. So that would be start to becoming even more complex, even at the simple example. But when you get to the more complex example where you allow them to filter, you know, and look at other data, it would become a very arduous task and quite expensive and timely to do it with just straight native web development. In fact, we estimate that it would take you about 300% more time to do it natively than if you just established the visualization in Nucleus and then projected it out. Now, of course, that does take into account that you are using a modern data analytics platform like Nucleus to be able to satisfy this demand. And also, you have to have, you're going to want to check your licensing, because some of the licensing for certain analytics tools do not allow you to present analytics to your members. You know, you might need a license for each one of them. So with Nucleus, you don't have that. We have a site license, so that also works in your favor to solve that. So Shepard's given me we have no other questions, so we're going to wrap up a little early and give you some time back. We want to thank you very much for joining us today. We hope you found the content and the demo informative. And with all our webinars, we've recorded this session and we'll send it to you shortly. Please feel free to share it with your colleagues. And please visit our website. In fact, a month or so ago, I actually wrote a blog on member-facing analytics. So if you want to learn a little more, please go read that. And we'll be conducting our next webinar on Tuesday, October 8th at 2 p.m. And we hope that you will join us then. So thanks again and have a wonderful day.